Greetings everyone, this is Tony Holowitz and thank you for being here for this tutorial on Act CRM. So yesterday I had a conversation with a client of mine and the conversation led to an idea I had for this video. And what it came down to is this: when we use Act, we have a lot of information in our database. And a lot of times we want to find that information. So one of the things that came up in our discussion is the concept of the idea that sometimes the information that can be most valuable to us is not necessarily what is, but what isn't. And let me show you what I mean by that with a very quick, simple first example. I'm going to come up and I'm going to click on Lookup, and I'm going to go down to where it says first name, and I'm going to look up in this database all the people named John. Now this is the Act demo database. And there's limited context in here, but when I click OK, we are going to find that in this database, there are two people named John. Okay, so that tells me here are all the people named John. I'm going to click on back, and I'm going to go back to where I started. But this time, I'm going to look at this a little bit different. I'm going to come up and go look up, and I'm going to go first name, back to where we were. And once I get here, I'm going to say instead of starts with or equals to, I'm going to say does not contain John. And I'm going to click OK. So what we're going to find is the information is just the opposite of our first lookup. Now why is this relevant? It's relevant because sometimes when we're in Act, the information that can be most relevant to us is not necessarily specific information, but something that fits a criteria that you need to know about. For example, I want to draw your attention right here to where it says email. Well, I'm right now in the desktop version of Act, and what might be relevant to us is to find things that have not happened according to Act. So I'm going to right click on this field and I'm going to go look up last email. Now in the desktop version of Act, you can right click on a field to initiate a lookup. In the web version, you can't do that. Right-clicking in the web version does some slightly different things. Having said that, in the last email, you have some options here. And one of the options I have is does not contain data. And what you can do with that is by clicking on that, this will give me a lookup of all the people that according to Act we have never emailed, because Act is designed, when set up properly, to put the date in a field. So I'm going to say OK. And according to Act, there are 169 people, and I'll just double click on one of these, that have never been emailed. So if you're in a sales position or if you're in customer service and you're saying to yourself, wait a minute, who are some of the customers I've never emailed just to say hello or touch base? This is a good lookup to do, all the people you haven't emailed. Another way you can look at that is let's assume that all the people that are in this database have been emailed at least once. That would make it so that this field has a date for every single contact in your database. Now, my experience has been that's not always the case, but let's say it was. Well, if I right-click on this field again, maybe now what I want to know is not necessarily who hasn't been emailed at all, but I might want to say, listen, I want to find all the contacts that have not been emailed within the last 90 days. So if I put in 90 here and click OK, this will tell me if anyone has fit that criteria. Okay, so no one has been emailed within the last 90 days. Or I can say older than 90 days and click OK. And what that will do is show me all the contacts that the last email that went out to them was older than 90 days. Now keep in mind, in this particular example, it doesn't take into account all the people you've never emailed because it's just looking for specific dates. And if some of the contacts don't have a date in that field, you want to know that those are blank and it doesn't return those as being people you haven't emailed in 90 days. So that's just another way to think of it. But when you look at Act, sometimes the question isn't what is, it's what isn't. What isn't being done? What have we forgotten to look at? What are the contacts in here that might be slipping through the cracks? And if you start looking at Act in a little bit of a different way and think about some of the most valuable information isn't necessarily exactly what you're looking for, but what is missing or hasn't happened, then it sheds a whole new light on your data. So it's just one little thing that I think is really important to look at. And when I work with my clients, these are some of the questions that I talk about. These are some of the things that I try to answer, and some of the things that I'll then return an answer for how to handle what we found and how to work with it. So people in your ACT database don't slip through the cracks. What is versus what isn't. Okay, my friends, my name is Tony Holowitz. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach back to me. Have a great day. Bye now.